Thank you for joining today's UCLA Alumni Town Hall, a conversation about AI, hosted by UCLA Alumni Association President Ann Wang. My name is Joseph Blancas, and I serve as an Associate Director at the UCLA Alumni Association. The UCLA Alumni Town Hall series is a gathering place where Bruins can have their voices heard, ask essential questions, and receive transparency and expertise. Today's program will discuss how UCLA has been approaching the emergence of AI and what Bruins can expect with this apparent technological revolution in the years to come. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our Alumni Association standing donors. It's with your help that we are able to strengthen the Bruin community with programs like this. For some general webinar housekeeping, we will have time at the end of our program for a Q&A with our speaker. So please email your questions to the email provided in the chat. We will also be recording today's event and will share it out once it's made available. Now, to start our program, I'm excited to introduce our moderator for today, Ann Wang. Ann is an entrepreneur, consultant, and producer who was named a Forbes 30 Under 30 social entrepreneur in 2016. She has built her own agency and creative studio that intersects entertainment, media, tech, and nonprofits to generate lasting social and cultural change. Ann holds a bachelor's degree in international development studies from UCLA and has served on the Alumni Association board since 2016. Ann, I invite you to come on camera. Thank you for being here today with us and moderating today's conversation.
Great, thank you.
And I'd also like to welcome today's guest and introduce Dr. Jens Palberg. He is a professor and former department chair of computer science at UCLA. His research interests span the areas of programming languages, software engineering, and quantum computing. He is the director of the UCLA Amazon Science Hub for Humanity and Artificial Intelligence, an associate editor of ACM Transactions on Quantum Computing, and a member of the ACM Executive Committee. In 2012, he received the ACM SIGPlan Distinguished Service Award, and in 2023, he received the Eon Instrumentation Excellence in Teaching Award at UCLA for his course on quantum computing. Dr. Palsberg, thank you for joining us this evening. I welcome you to the screen as well. There you are. And I'm going to pass it off to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Joseph. And I am so excited to welcome all of our Bruins today. This is a very special conversation with Professor Jen Palsberg to just really open up the complex interplay and a conversation about the interaction between AI and its potential impact on humanity, on our world, on our everyday lives. I'm hoping that many of you who are showing up today already are curious and excited about artificial intelligence. I think in the history of technology, very few movements have ignited both the amount of awe and apprehension quite like artificial intelligence has. I'm excited to dig into that with you, Professor Palsberg. And it can be complicated to understand. It's not an easy topic to grasp, but I do think that most people rapidly realize that it is going to change our society. It is going to impact how we function, and it's already showing to be quite polarizing. So, we hear people using GPT all the time, especially students and their learning. I'm sure that's a big topic we can have a conversation about. Chancellor Block jokes about this all the time. And companies are dramatically being disrupted, services are changing, and there's massive impact on the workforce. So this is an interesting time, and we are so lucky to have you, Professor, to give us some insight, to shine a little bit of light into not only artificial intelligence in general, but the work that you're doing at UCLA. And I'll save that to really get into the Science Hub that you are working on in partnership with Amazon. So let's just start by setting a foundation. Again, artificial intelligence can be a little complicated. So for our alumni tuning in, can you just give an overview of what artificial intelligence is and give a little insight into the rapid evolution of this technology, its impact in the last year or two and some of the big innovations and changes that have happened so far.
Oh yeah, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, it's things are happening so fast. I think the beginning of AI more than half a century ago was plainly to build computers that can think the way people think. And for a long time, that was like a joke almost, that the people are just too good and the computers will never win in chess and this kind of thing. And then they kind of got better. And for a long time, the strategy in AI was to just replicate human reasoning, sort of like, if we know this is true, then we also know this is true. And then the big revolution actually came from UCLA. My colleague, Judah Pearl, revolutionized AI a couple of decades ago by little more, by introducing probabilities and reasoning with probabilities into AI. And it quickly got a lot better. And that was kind of around the time also when AI started to beat the world champion in chess. Mm-hmm. And so now it meant that AI was getting a lot closer to reason the way people do. And then came the revolution in the last not many years where AI started to learn from data. And I think the AI researchers realized we have so much data and the AI can learn from it. And then it became really good.
Mm-hmm. And so, in this evolution, how do you feel like it's really created a topic of debate for the masses, right? Yeah. We can talk about the synergy between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. So how do we just start off with this idea that can artificial intelligence really enhance human potential rather than replace it?
I think the easy way for me to say it is that we should get AI to do all the easy stuff, and then we will do all the hard stuff. And sometimes maybe we can get robots powered by AI to do the dangerous stuff. So that's how I would like it to go. And so we know that when certain kinds of software got better, then we didn't need travel agents as much. But then there are other things that people can do. And so to me, the story of software has always been, with AI being a good example, has always been that some jobs diminish in sort of need, but then other jobs become much more important and we get more jobs there. So I think that all this new AI will make some jobs diminish in need.
So if you looked into that crystal ball, how do you think our everyday lives might change? Let's just say in the next 1 to 2 years, do you see a big shift in how we do our day-to-day work? Do you see a big shift in how we think, how we create?
Yes, so there are things that are already changing this year with ChatGPT. So report writing is getting automated very quickly, where that used to be a whole job category of people writing reports. That is that's going to diminish in need for people because AI can write those reports for us. Another thing that's coming like a freight train is driverless cars. I actually used to be very skeptic about driverless cars, even until 5 years ago. I think you could hear me say that I think it'll never happen, but it's very clear that driverless cars are getting better very, very fast. And now I'm actually beginning to think that legislation may already allow them on a grand scale in the United States this decade. And so this means that certain needs for drivers will be less. And I think in particular in the transportation industry, that's going to have a huge effect on need for workers. Mm-hmm. And then I think the little bit further out, now you said 1 to 2 years, but I think a little bit further out, and it's a place where UCLA is very much on the forefront, is in getting personalized medicine recommendations. I think we all know that if we go to the doctor today with some kind of ache, then the doctor will prescribe the same number of milligrams of a medicine as he or she will do to anyone else. But that we are quickly getting into a situation where those recommendations can be based on whatever our DNA reading is and what our past history is and how that compares to all the other patients that the AI has had access to taking a look at.
Well, I love the word personalized. I think it's a word that is used in technology a lot. can you go one layer deeper at all? Why does AI allow technology to be more personalized? And I say this in the lens that I think technology can feel incredibly cold and in conflict to humanity, but there's a concept around personalization that I think might shift some of that conversation.
Yeah. So the researchers at UCLA have access to all the 18 million patients in the UC health systems records. Of course, this is all under appropriate HIPAA and everything. So it's a very not public, but for what it's worth, it gives a huge set of data for finding out how do the different medical records, what can we learn from looking at all of them? For those who have had their DNA done, what can we learn from that, all the medical images, and then trying to find out for the ones that are close to each other in data, maybe we can see that this person over here went through this and now you're coming into it. So now we can make a prediction that maybe it'll go you in the same way. Or maybe we can say you look so different that it'll probably be going in a different way with your medical future. And so I think that trying to go through this like a doctor going through it by hand, that's too much work. But now we have AI to do it for us. And I think that I think the future is that we will live longer because AI will help us get the right medicine and get the right recommendations in time.
Professor, I know that, again, this is where if you don't know maybe the back end of artificial intelligence, can you just talk about the power of artificial intelligence, its connection to mass amounts of data, right? You're saying there's tons of data. We as humans cannot go through and sit and look at all the patterns of genetics, right? And so can you just in a simple way kind of explain what is the power of artificial intelligence when it comes to data and pattern recognition?
Yeah, so I think I'm a professor, so the easiest for me is homework. So when I give a homework in computing, which is my field, then I know for the undergraduates that this is a kind of homework that other professors all over the world has given before, and then whatever homework has been uploaded to the internet and so on, it's all available. So the answers are out there. Yeah. And what AI can do is to sort of comb through all of that and sort of distill a wonderful answer, like we have seen ChatGPT do for all kind of other questions. And so it's this ability to take in whatever is out there, find out all the stuff that's relevant, and then chew through it and get what seems to be like the dominating way of going about this, and then somehow distilling out text that describes it. So in a way, this is what one of the meanings of the word research means. Go and find what's available, distill it, and write me a report about it. Now ChatGPT can do that. So it helps me as well. If I want to learn something new, which is kind of my job as a researcher, then now I can use AI to say, just tell me what's the latest on this, distill me a report. I don't have to sit and click around for a week.
And, AI has been portrayed in media between this utopian answer versus this dystopian terror. And so how can we foster a more nuanced and accurate understanding of artificial intelligence's potential, its limitations, and really, speak to some of those concerns that I think people have a lot of fear around?
I think that the thing that's scary is how fast it's moving. It used to be that the world changed, but it changed that sort of at a pace we could comprehend. And now I think not only does it seem to be changing faster than that, but I think it actually is changing faster than that. And so it means that it's becoming difficult to even wrap the mind around what the world will look like 10 years from today. And I think in that sense, I share at least the uncertainty about what will the future actually bring. What will the world be like when my son grows up, in particular, right? And so the speed of change, that is the problem. But I think that other than that, technology of all kinds, not just computer technology, has always been changing the world. And I think that what technology has brought us is longer lifespans, healthier lifespans, the ability to support a much bigger world population. And I think that those things will continue.
Well, I want to eventually get into this conversation around regulation and topics like equity and bias. But before we get to more of the maybe not so silver lining pieces, let's talk about the positive impacts. You've already alluded to it from a health standpoint. You've alluded to it from an access of knowledge standpoint, but how, and this is where I am so kind of curious on, is how do we leverage AI to potentially positively impact humanity? And I mean this in the sense that we have more computing power now than ever to tackle some of our biggest social challenges, if that's climate change, disease outbreak, mental health, food scarcity, these things that tend to be multivariable, systemic, and very complex to solve with human-based only solutions. So where do you see that path of positive AI or, impacts?
So I think that that the potential AI has here first and foremost is to create awareness that we can much more easily dive through lots of data about how the world is going, with particularly now you say climate change, but other things too, and get a clear picture of what is going on. So the way it is today, when these worldwide committees put out climate reports, it is an enormous amount of work by many scientists to try to distill all this. And so it takes a long time, and it always feels like we are behind. But I think AI will be able to distill information about what is the situation with whatever problem it may be much faster. And so to take an example of something from engineering at UCLA, wildfires in California, where we are, some of the researchers are working on getting plainly a map of where all the burnable stuff is in California, and then predicting that if a wildfire starts over here and the wind direction is like this, how is this going to spread, and what should we be doing immediately to contain it? And how is this possible? It's possible because AI can chew through lots of data about what's out there and distill it into a map that's actually useful.
I think that's a great lead into what you were working on with UCLA and the Amazon Science Hub for Humanity and AI. So if you can give some insight into the mission of the hub and what UCLA hopes to accomplish through this research, and a little bit about that partnership with Amazon as well, that would be great.
It was actually Amazon that came to us some not so many years ago, and then the Science Hub started in 2021. We have more or less 2 years anniversary this fall. So Amazon has 6,000 scientists, as they would call them, and UCLA of course has thousands of researchers, at both sort of professors and students, and the mission is to bring people together and work together on particularly AI, but really AI used for good for all of humanity. So we put humanity in the title. And so it means that it's very much a science hub for all of campus. We're trying to bring in as researchers of all kinds as much as we can, and we are definitely trying to work on things that will do good for humanity.
And Professor, are there any particular projects that you are excited about in that line? I'm sure there's so many, but can you give us one just to see how this hub is really fostering this conversation of impact?
So I will. So I already gave one because the one about wildfires in California, that's one. We are proud of that. I will give another one. So now that was one is in engineering. I'm going to give one from medicine. So we have a project on predicting whether so we have a pregnant person who may be about to give birth or has given birth, and there's this question: will depression happen? And by looking at all these things we already went over that one can have access to from prior contact with the medical system, we are looking at predicting depression. And so depression in that situation is of course particularly terrible. Depression is sort of terrible to begin with, but it's particularly terrible and disruptive. And it looks like we are making good progress towards being able to predict and do something early for people in that situation.
That's incredible. And there's a number of different projects. How many projects right now do you?
Oh yeah, so it's about total is about 25.
Wow.
And so the good thing is that it's a very dynamic, where I think the story is that if we go back certainly 10 years, I think what I've heard from Amazon is that at the time they were not set up so much to talk to universities to sort of collaborate or stuff. But then, foresighted people said we should really start to talk to universities more. And then Amazon started first a science hub in Columbia, in Manhattan. And then the second one was UCLA in Los Angeles, and third one was at MIT in Boston. And there may very well be more coming, who knows? But that's sort of this thing of they want to talk to the universities and to our researchers. And so now that more and more people inside Amazon are getting the word that there are opportunities here, that people you can talk to. And so we are getting contacts all the time now from this part of Amazon and that part of Amazon. Wow. You connect us to somebody who's working on this. And so it's sort of exciting to be me these days.
Well, I do think that really is the future of higher education, is the deeper integration with the corporate and in key industries, right? And that's something UCLA has done on a number of different ways. If it's from the research and engineering side, or if it's from the startup and tech side, it is in our DNA to be able to be a resource not only for community, but for creative and corporate partners. So it's really exciting to see this partnership, and congratulations. I am getting bombarded by great questions from the audience. So I'm going to do a little bit of a mix. There's a lot of questions here around education and the future of skill sets and jobs, right? So AI is definitely not only radically altering education, but it's probably going to change the workforce and the skills needed in the future. So what is the role of higher education in preparing the workforce for an AI augmented future, and to navigate certain skills that might be in demand for a future job market?
I think that the role of higher education is the same as it has always been. But for me as a professor, the exciting part is that I can give harder homeworks, and more interesting homework, more challenging homeworks, because students have access to getting the easy stuff done so much more easily. So I think that AI is, and all the kind of tools we've talked about today, I think it's going to make higher education more interesting, more valuable, and plainly more fun to be part of. The second thing is this thing about what exactly should we be doing. I think that the time has come to rethink our undergraduate education. I think that education may be able to go faster. I think we may be able to get to more advanced topics by the fourth year. And so it could be that what used to be the master's level is going to be the senior level for the undergraduates, and they will be able to do it and plainly learn more. And so it means that everything can get more advanced. And I think that's in the spirit of that we should leave the easy stuff to AI, and we should do the harder stuff. And I think, yeah. Go
ahead.
And I think what it means in practice is that we'll be able to make the world better faster.
Right. And I love that you say that. Let's leave the easy and mundane things to AI and allow us to do not only the harder stuff, but I would assume the more creative and, the more innovative we can be, the space. And this is what gets me excited, is that artificial intelligence is not supposed to replace human intelligence, but it leaves human intelligence more space to do what we do, which is create and innovate, as we have as a species for a long time. So that's a great, that gets me so excited. The other component of this as well is this concept of navigating critical thinking, right? If what you've shared with us is that AI really can regurgitate information, so the ability to memorize and regurgitate information, especially in education, is not necessarily as valuable as it was. So what is now valuable, again, in preparing for a world in which memorization, regurgitation is not as valuable, but critical thinking and or original thought might be more valuable. How do you see that shifting in the workforce side of things, not just education?
Yeah, I think that we have always said in education of any kind that what's important is critical thinking and problem solving and being able to know important from less important. And that is still true, but the matter of fact is that there were so many things that had to be learned and then, as you say, regurgitated, and it's like there was sort of a bunch of boring things. But now I think we can get faster to the things that really matter, and it will allow us to plainly make people more able to contribute to society when they come out from any level of education.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get a little bit into the next level of the technology. We're getting some questions from the audience around things that I think are still premature in AI. And so things like misinformation, lack of accuracy, you know, and for those in the crowd who don't know these terms, you know, we're looking at current artificial intelligence like ChatGPT that still struggle with certain things like misinformation, inaccuracies, hallucinations, and a big topic, which is bias, right, and equity. So can you talk us through how to push the future of artificial intelligence into a world in which those concerns are less, and hopefully equity and accessibility are more to this technology?
Yeah, I'm going to begin with, I just came through the airport the other day, and nowadays a lot of times it's done by face recognition. You no longer have to show your ID, right? And so then there's this question of how good is face recognition? And of course, nowadays one can train this kind of thing on data. So this kind of what some of the AI people are working on. And of course, if that data tend to be all mostly from one race, then it's going to be terrible at doing face recognition at all the other races. That's the kind of bias problem that we have in all kinds of AI today. And so it means it's fine that we can download the whole internet and train AI on it. But if it's actually very one-sided, the data that's on the internet, then some of the AI is not going to be good at some things. So we need to think about the data set. That's one thing. That's a big research topic nowadays. And then the other thing is the misinformation and all the things that come with it. So here we go again, that one can plainly see just put misinformation on the internet, and now it becomes part of the next model that's being built. And I'm a researcher. I'm interested in certain technical topics, and I have asked the internet about what's the answer to this question, and I get something back, and I check it, and it's wrong. So even just like very factual things, sometimes the wrong answer is just prevalent on the internet, and that's what you get back. And of course, this could be much worse if it's like, how much medicine should I take of this kind, or right? It can be deadly at some point. And I think that's, to me, sort of the big worry that I think it used to be that it's like software, AI. If you go far enough back, AI will solve our problems one day. Now it's like AI will take our jobs. And if we sort of think this all the way to what the governments of all kind of countries are working on, which is to build AI into weapons, then it's getting to AI will kill us. And then it's so one thing is that part is scary, but the other part is also that the data sets, the biases, the correctness of the data is going to be very important for whether all of this will work in our favor.
Mm-hmm. And so that topic of, you know, equity and bias, the misuse of artificial intelligence, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of power and there's a lot of interest to put into this as quickly as possible. So we're seeing this come out of conversations with the White House. We're seeing this come out of OpenAI. What do we need for the good ones to win, right? What do we need for the right artificial intelligence, again, to win at things like accessibility, right? There's an opportunity that artificial intelligence could make the poor poorer and the rich richer, or to your point, it can be used as a massive weapon of war. So how do we start thinking about the boundaries and limitations needed to be able to have the good ones win?
My model for that is the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, where there was a time where it was like probably nuclear weapons will spread all over, and then people will be mad enough to use them, and that'll be the end. And somehow it didn't happen until today, anyways. And I think that there's a certain level of responsibility that the world's countries raised too, and made a good thing happen there. The thing that's worrying with AI is that there's money to be made. Right. And then it may not be so easy to have anything like non-proliferation happen. But I think that that's what's needed, is that people agree that there are certain things we will just not use it for. And that's and then somebody will do it anyway, but then we have to sort of be together in keeping that down and punishing those who do it anyway.
Do you think it's a regulatory from multiple levels, federal to like technology? How do we think about that at UCLA? How?
Yeah, I think it's like nuclear proliferation is very much multinational. It's like it doesn't help if there's some countries over here in that part of the world who doesn't follow it. We have to like be in agreement. But I think it's most of all federal, that there has to be laws that allow us to punish those who don't follow. And as always, laws are always behind technology, so it's easy to be worried that any kind of legislation approach to this will be slow and behind. But anyways, this is how I see it today. The technology is moving forward very fast, and even then there are big important things in our lives that the federal government is taking up and making decisions about, good or bad, but they are thinking about it, and I think they should think about this too.
So for those that, and just a reminder for everyone who is watching right now, all of our Bruins, if you have any questions, please email them to us, because I know there's so much curiosity on this topic. But for those that want to learn more, what advice do you have in terms of, one, staying educated on a topic? If you are fearful or if you are apprehensive, how do you stay educated in a way that protects things like data and privacy, which is a huge concern? But at the same time, if you're excited and you're curious and maybe you want to do research, or you want to join a company who's thinking about AI, what advice do you have for both the scared and the excited in learning more?
So first of all, I think try ChatGPT, try some of the other services online for applying sort of AI, applying language models and the other things, just to get a sense of how good is it actually, instead of just relying on journalists who tried it. The second thing is the number of courses online, whether it's Coursera or other services, the courses are actually very good, and they're coming quickly. So the AI professors around the world they're doing a good job of taking some time to put some courses online, so one can learn about the latest, not just AI the way it used to be, but really AI the way it is today. That's the second thing. And then I think that all of this is also a reminder for lifelong learning, that it's just a reminder that we should learn more. So you can take me as an example. At age, I forget what it was, but around 50 years old, I had just stepped down as department chair of computer science at UCLA, and I went to UCLA Anderson and got an MBA because I felt I should learn more. And it's like, yeah, let me go and learn more, right? And I think if this AI has the effect that we all get inspired to learn more, great. I think that's a very good outcome.
And for those that are interested in bringing AI into their work, right? So maybe it's a corporation setting. Maybe I'm at X company and we want to do things more efficiently and more effectively. Again, where can you go? What tools do you think of when you think of integrating it into work and corporate work, maybe?
So yeah, so of course, so I'm a programmer, so we find ways to integrate these kind of things into programming. But I think that I think that this thing with report writing is a good place to start. That we all need to produce writing as part of our jobs, many of us anyway. And I think that look into these new things that are coming out, where based on data from your world, and then when you say I need a report about this, that a lot of it can be generated automatically. I think that this is sort of worth looking into, and I can see it with my own students now. Of course, they are research students. They're supposed to produce new things that were not there before, but there's always this thing of what are we building on? Can we get a summary of what we're building on? Yep, you can get ChatGPT to produce a lot of that, and sure, if that means that they can get much faster to think about the new stuff, wonderful. And I think this is for all of us, is if we can get those reports written about what did we do last month, or what did our company do last month, and we can get back to doing new value generating stuff. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. The analysis of that information is still so important to be done by a human in some ways, right? The reports have to be actioned on, not by AI, but by us and our systems and how we work. And so
exactly.
I'm seeing a couple questions here that are back to higher education. How does this change teaching, right? And we talked a little bit about this as well. And I think, how do you see a holistic shift happening when it comes to teaching and the relationship between teaching and learning?
Yes. So first of all, I want to say that if people don't want to do their homework and just copy what they find online, well, so I cannot stop them from doing that. And we can give exams to see if people learned anything, but what I enjoy doing as a professor is not to give grades. I want to see people learn. If they're not interested in learning, to me, that's just too bad, right? But for those who do want to learn, I think that now there's this potential to get help to learn more. And I think that that's the beauty of this. And what I will be working on. So now this ChatGPT happened in the middle of the teaching year in November, right? So there was not much time to adjust this year. But what I want to be working on for this school year that's about to begin is to figure out how to give more interesting homeworks and to challenge students more and see if it actually works. So I don't want to leave the weakest 1/3 of the class behind. But on the other hand, I also know at UCLA we have wonderful students, and even the weakest 1/3 of the class is not really that weak. And so I think that I want to see if I can find a way to really challenge all the students in the class. And I feel like we are just getting more tools in our toolbox for doing that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also seeing a couple questions here from the audience just about the impact on job loss, right? We're very afraid of this replacing jobs. We're seeing the writer's strike as a major pushback. And so what are your thoughts on the not only potential replacement of jobs, but that tension around creativity and ownership of skill sets, right? By writers, by artists, by singers.
I was in a meeting just yesterday where we were people both from North Campus and from South Campus, and it was like the North Campus was saying, you know, we are mostly anxious and not very optimistic about all this new AI, and the people from South Campus were saying we are mostly excited and not so anxious. And I think that this kind of reflects what you said, I think that as we talked about, there will be a change, that there will be some jobs where there will be need, where the society will need fewer people, and that's just how it goes. But then there will be other jobs that will be coming up because we will be able to do new things that we couldn't even do before. And so I think that there will be, if we look at the next 10 years, I think there will be tens of millions of adult Americans who will need more education to be able to take on new jobs. I think particularly of the transportation sector, with self-driving vehicles and some other ones. And I think that societies change, but if we have the ability to give the lifelong learning to everyone who wants it, I think we can all be productive in the society that's coming. or at least that's easy to say because it's changing so fast. But I want to take the optimistic view of this, that that people can learn new things to get the new jobs that are coming.
Yeah, I think with innovation, there's always a level of displacement in that transition, and something that, you know, I work in entertainment, specifically, you know, in the somewhat in music and somewhat in film, but there are a lot of legal conversations now to the ownership of creativity. So, you know, how do we think about, again, if AI is creating something and there's a human that's working with AI to create it, how do we think about this originality mentality and this ownership mentality with artificial intelligence?
Yeah, that's a huge, I don't have so much to say about that, but I do read Los Angeles Times every day. I'm at the old school. We get Los Angeles Times on paper every day. And I do read the articles about this, and I see the anxiety. I remember that one column from the spring where a person producing drawings for the newspaper said they took all the drawings that was ever made and they put them in a database without anyone's permission, and now they can produce drawings. And I'm against it. But it's one of those things that, however regrettable this is for the past, it's kind of already done, and we have to think forward. And so I am all for thinking about new models of ownership of creativity, so that people can keep a hand in this. So we both need to think about people's livelihood. Of course, we need to think about ownership of their work. And at the same time, we cannot stop technology. What we can do is we can regulate it. The things that are the worst uses, we need to get together and say we forbid certain things. But there are so many positive sides to AI that we should be sure to get those.
So UCLA, we are the #1 public university, let alone #1 public research university. So, you know, when you talk about the optimism of what's possible with AI and investing in that, outside of the hub, I mean, the hub being a big part of it, but how is UCLA positioning itself to be on the cutting edge of, you know, artificial intelligence, of innovation in technology right now? And there's a bit of a follow-up question, is if people in the audience want to get involved with UCLA in the world of AI, how can they do that?
So first of all, I think UCLA already for many years has been on the forefront in using AI and any kind of software in medicine. So we have been fortunate that the dean of the medical school and the dean of engineering have been able to see eye to eye for a long time. And one of the outcomes was the creation of the computational medicine department, which is a department in medicine, but it's also affiliated with engineering. And I see the mission of that department as using AI to make better medicine, if you like. And that is going very well, super successful. Another thing is bringing in the business school. So now I'm a graduate of the business school, right? So we are working on this sort of triangle with the business school, the medical school, and engineering. That's a conversation that's been ongoing. And then, of course, we have humanities in the name. And there are multiple initiatives at UCLA. There's the whole digital humanities, there's DataX, there are various initiatives of just spreading what we can do, particularly with AI, in all kinds of disciplines. And so I think research is just getting better and better and faster at UCLA. And whatever AI can do for everybody is spreading all over. And then this thing about getting involved. I will just give one example. The Science Hub has its annual showcase on October the 13th, Friday, October 13th. It's completely public. We are releasing the link to sign up the day after tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? The day? Very soon. And everyone is welcome. It's completely free. You can come. It'll talk about AI. There will be people from Amazon and researchers from UCLA, both professors and graduate students, all day. It's going to be in Luskin all day. People are most welcome to come up, to come over. It won't cost anything. The food is free, whatever it is. Come and hear about AI and what's going on, and see some of the things that both UCLA researchers and a little bit Amazon researchers are working on.
We'll make sure for everyone who's following to get you that information in the sign-up link, but that's so exciting. I will be there October 13th. right?
Yeah.
A Friday at
Yeah,
Lusk.
in Luskin, just ask for me. No, go after the sound. There'll be lots of people.
And there's also the website, right, Professor?
And
So-
there's the website. We have the Science Hub website. And we're going to put another slew of projects on there soon. There's
Okay.
always something happening.
Okay. And how do you see this relationship with Amazon potentially evolving? Has it been a continued relationship? It sounds like it's been incredibly fruitful, but what do you hope, not only in this relationship, but the impact of the Science Hub, let's say in 5 years or 3 years?
But actually, I think that most of all, what I think about is opportunities for our students. So we have seen people get internships at Amazon, they get mentors from Amazon, some of them go get a job there. And generally, of course, just getting to work on relevant, interesting problems, and they don't have to go work at Amazon. That's just the name that came up here, but just generally be more ready to go and take a job and contribute to society. And so I want to see growth on that most of all. And then I plainly want to see Amazon get more and more interested in talking with us. So I see this growth curve of how many contacts do we get every year in like, we need to talk to people about search. We need to talk to people about something, whatever it is Amazon is up to. And then it's like, great, we can connect you with some people, right? And so I would love to see UCLA continue to be connected to all kinds of companies that like to have a conversation with our researchers, and particularly for the benefit of our students.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm going to zoom out to global. So I know that the UN and many other global entities are looking at leveraging artificial intelligence to tackle, again, things like climate change, disease outbreak. Mental health is something that UCLA is deeply committed to, with the Depression Grand Challenge as well, and of course our sustainability challenge. So how do we create more collaborative efforts on a global scale to harness AI's potential?
Yeah. And
is UCLA, you've already alluded to quite a bit of it, but how is UCLA playing a role in that?
Very good. So first of all, let me say that I think people know this, but UCLA is already very collaborative. I found out that 55% of all the professors at UCLA have appointments in at least 2 departments. And so that's a sign that people really sort of are out there and connecting with people everywhere. And in the same way, I can see sort of the people, both for myself and people I'm connected to, they have their arms out in other universities and other countries, universities and companies in other countries as well. And so I think that this is where academia has the advantage of that we are just trying to create new knowledge. We don't have secrets. It's like everything is open. If we can find people who are interested anywhere in the world in what we are doing, we'll be happy to talk to them. The only thing that's limiting is 24 hours a day. And so I see a lot of connections at UCLA. I see coming and going. People are visiting us. We have our students are visiting them, and I think that part is good. And then there was the grand challenges that you were saying.
Right.
I think there's so many good things. You mentioned the grand challenge for depression. We have the whole sustainability effort going on. In engineering, we are getting a new dean September 1st. That's on Friday, who is a world expert in carbon capture. I have understood. So we are. She's going to start shaping up engineering very soon, and so these are some of these topics that once the breakthroughs come have the potential for huge impact. And if AI can somehow help with that, even a little bit or more than a little bit, wonderful.
So as a professor, one of your very important skills is creating something and teaching something to be simpler than it is, right?
Yes.
And so with AI, the transparency and explainability of AI is very, very, very hard. And I say that from a firsthand perspective. I'm lucky to work with a couple of AI startups, but it takes me forever to understand the technical intricacies. So how do we bridge that gap between not only you and your students, but really the public understanding, alumni understanding of not only AI, but how to make decisions, my decisions, around using artificial intelligence to protect what's important to me.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree with you that the kind of AI we have today that's based on lots and lots of data is not so explainable. If the explanation is that, well, this is what this massive amount of data says, then that's not helpful. And so I believe that we need to learn to check what comes out of AI. Whatever recommendations we get, we need to learn to check them. And of course, the place where this gets scary is that if this is a self-driving car, then, well, what can we do? Well, we can override what the steering wheel is doing by holding our hands there. That's the kind of the check part, right? If the car is doing something silly, we should stop it. But for any other thing that comes out of AI, I think we have to learn to be better at checking the recommendations that we get, whether they make sense, whether they're good for us, whether we actually want to do it. And so it's sort of changing what we are doing. Instead of wading through lots of data ourselves and trying to come up with something, we can get suggestions. And now we need to learn to think about them. So we still need all the critical thinking and the problem solving and finding out what's important and less important. But now we can get suggestions to think about.
Well, I know we are running out of time. I could honestly, Professor, I feel like we could talk to each other for hours and hours and hours, but with our finishing 5 minutes here, just to get to know you a little bit more, what gets you up in the mornings? What gets you excited? And then what might keep you up at night? What maybe worries you a little bit? It doesn't have to be about AI. It can be just the larger scope of what you're interested in.
So what gets me up in the morning is this desire to try to create something new, something preferably elegant, simple, that's useful, that other people can use. I love the simple, elegant solutions to problems. I love to think about problems and solving them. The thing that makes me worried is, we already touched on, is this thing that AI and technology of different kinds can be used for bad purposes. And I think that we are in a situation now where it seems like the bad guys will have an easier time than in a long while, and we need to be more on our toes. And so for me, the government's ability to act is something where it sort of matters more to me than it did before. That I think we need more than usual to have governments that are willing to act on behalf of all of us to keep things in check.
Well, I love the overall tone, though, that you bring is one of optimism, and for those, that is something that is very deep in the UCLA culture, is this interaction between innovation and optimism, and also this commitment to impact and the commitment to doing things well and right for larger society. And so we thank you so much, Professor, for one, joining us and spending time with our alumni, you being an alumni yourself in so many different ways, Anderson, and, across campus. But two, also your commitment to this work and your commitment to not only putting UCLA continuously on the map of innovation, especially around artificial intelligence, but really a commitment to bettering our world with this technology. So thank you so much for your time. And to all the Bruins watching, we are so appreciative of your thoughtful questions. This is a topic that, again, we could unpack for days. And so we are grateful to have access to this knowledge as a university. And of course, if you're interested in more, reach out and we can connect you directly with our science hub. And so thank you so much again, and I'll pass it back over to Joseph.
Yeah, Dr. Pelsberg, thank you, like Anne mentioned, and then Anne, thank you for leading this conversation. you were so thoughtful in your approach and your questions. And so we appreciate you being here, both of you for being here. And like you also mentioned, to everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us, and hope you all have a good rest of your week and a great night. And go Bruins.